Hello, my name is Tony Charles. I'm a professor at St. Mary's University in Halifax, Canada, on the Atlantic coast of Canada. I'm a professor in environmental science and in our business school, and also the director of the Community Conservation Research Network. I've been working on oceans and fishery topics all my career, and it's really a huge pleasure to be talking today with Ginny Boudreau of the Guysborough County Inshore Fishermen's Association in a small town of Canso in Nova Scotia, same province as I am, but in a rural area, whereas I'm in a city. And Ginny, it's wonderful to have you join today. I'd be happy if you could say a few words about yourself, but also give us an idea of your connection to the ocean and to fisheries. Can you tell us that in how does that connection work for you?
Yes, thank you, Tony. I'm very happy to be here as well. I love bragging about our ocean connections and about our ocean, and especially our fisheries. I am the executive director of the association, which is a multi-species small boat, or primarily small boat fish inshore fishermen. We do have a few of larger vessels under 65 that fish in the offshore, but primarily the membership is made up of inshore small boat under 45 vessels, and again, multi-species. I've been working for the association for 20 some years. And prior to that, I worked in different sectors of the fishery, in the processing sector for different species as well. My family background, my father fished, was an inshore fisherman. My brothers fish, my brother-in-law's fish, my sisters fish. My generations have, that's what brought us to Canada to start with. And we've settled here in Guysborough County, and we really haven't left. Most of us are still here. Our tie to the ocean is both cultural, it's economics, it's community, it's our food source. It's every aspect of our life can be tied back to the ocean. Even our recreation, swimming, boating, fishing, it's all the ocean. The fact that we're jetted out into the Atlantic Ocean by peninsula on the eastern tip of Nova Scotia certainly makes it very accessible. And because we have such lucrative fishing grounds, right from the 1500s when the Basque first arrived here, and that was the purpose of that was fishing. And there's been several countries, colonies that have followed since then. When they came here, the Mi'kmaq were the existing inhabitants of this area. Sometimes they got along with them, sometimes they didn't. We've been conquered by many countries, but we're still here. And the fishery in this area, again, I said, is mainly small boat, family-oriented fishing enterprises, multi-species. So they fish lobster, crab, tuna, groundfish species, sea urchins, scallops. So each of the enterprises in the area have a mixed bag, I guess, of fishing licenses. That makes them, allows them to be diversified, so they're not 100% dependent on any one species. They're small boats, so they're day trips, less fuel. They can operate with a smaller boat because it's close to shore. There's lots of outer islands in the area that they can fish in and around, which provides some protection. So it's easy, I guess, to stay so connected to the ocean when you're on it every day. You're working on it, you're playing on it, your houses are so many feet away. It's sort of provides you with security. And of course, there's, you want to reciprocate that, so that because you are so tied to the ocean, you want to make sure that you're looking after it, that you're managing it sustainably, that you're aware of the possible pollutants and the conservation of whatever species you're fishing, but also that whole food web. So what is tied to the species that you're fishing? You want to be knowledgeable about that and preserve that and conserve it. The environmental changes that are going on currently, we have to stay so in touch and on top of that, so that we respond properly with conservation measures or management measures. That's sometimes challenging.
Well, that's I mean, that is an amazing story, and you and I have connected for perhaps 30 years. And about 30 years ago, there was in this region, some people may be aware, one of the largest collapses of a natural resource in history. This was what we call the cod collapse, the cod fishery collapse in the early 1990s. And you've been emphasizing conservation and sustainability. What was the impact of that cod fishery collapse on the fishermen that you're working with, and how is it that you and the fishermen in your association have managed to be sustainable despite that experience of a natural resource collapse?
Yes, that natural resource collapse was at the time very it was very disconcerting for the inshore small boat fleet, because at that time we were, as the offshore was, primarily dependent on the groundfish species, the cod, the haddock, the pollock. That was our primary income. The other species, the shellfish species, and some of the other species that we fish, they would offset the groundfish species. So they were secondary to what we were doing at that time, where the main income came from the groundfish. When that collapsed, we had already diversified to a small extent into some of the shellfish species and some of the other species of fish, the mackerel, the pelagics, tuna, herring, mackerel, squid. So we fared a little better than the offshore corporate fleets that were, dependent on massive ITQs, very large vessels, large crews. They were providing product to very large processing plants. And when that collapsed, the whole house of cards came down. There wasn't anything left of their foundation that they could diversify into immediately, where the inshore fared a little better because we were already into fishing some of those other species. And at the same time, very shortly after, once the cod were gone, which was the primary prey on our shellfish species, those fisheries sort of exploded. So we were very opportunistic at the time, so we could diversify. So that led to increased sustainability, if you're going to diversify, it's always better to have not all your eggs in one basket, but you don't want all your fish in one basket. You want some shellfish, you want some, a variety. And that was the difference, I think, between the inshore and the offshore. It was difficult for the inshore as well, but we weren't as hard hit as the processing sector and the offshore trawler fleets.
Those are really important lessons, and they probably resonate around the world. And just as a final question for you, Ginny, when you realize that for World Oceans Day, people are watching us literally around the world, what do you think is it links the fishermen of Guysborough to other parts of the world? How, when you think of the fisheries in Guysborough, Nova Scotia, what lesson would you say you've drawn over the years from that might be other lessons that might be applicable around the world?
I think for the Guysborough fishermen, we are still primarily a family-oriented enterprise, multi-species, so diversification, dependency on one species is very dangerous, not just to the fishermen, but also to that species. So, if the effort isn't so hard that if you're not that dependent on that one species, it's much easier to protect it. And it's also much easier to protect the fishing enterprises if they can be diversified. But keeping them in the family unit, when the income is lower, then all that income stays within the family. You're not paying laborers. You don't have 10 other employees that you have to share the income with. Now, in times of prosperity, then the price for lobster is high, the price for crab is high. Then you can take on that second or third individual. They usually come from the community of Guysborough County. We don't usually have to go outside of our community to find hired labor. If it's your brother, your son, your sister's husband, your next door neighbor, you're more apt to share the income a little more equally. So it's not, the captain doesn't make all the money, and then the share gets spread out farther, and that sustains the whole community, because that money doesn't leave your community. It's not going to a shareholder in downtown Toronto. It's going to your neighbor, or it's going to your local church, your restaurants, your arenas, your community organizations. It's sustaining that whole community. If there's processing, that's even a larger benefit. So I guess what I want to say is that keep the revenue and the income as close to your community as you can, and as well that will ensure that it is also that the fisheries are also kept sustainable, that the ocean will be looked after, because it's your backyard. It's not someone in downtown, some city hundreds of miles away or thousands of miles away. They're not really concerned about the ocean. But yeah, so I think that would be my two key takeaways.
And those are really inspiring takeaways. And thinking of the ocean as your own backyard is an important way to look at it when you're close by the sea. Indeed, this was a wonderful sea story. Thank you so much, Ginny Boudreau.
Okay, thank you. I'm very, very excited to participate and see some of the other sea stories as well.
Thank you.